Right, well, I'll apply some grease to that lens thread. And I'm just using synthetic grease here. It doesn't need an awful lot. Here we go. It's often tricky to get fine threads to start, but that's all on. That's good. Well, I think probably the best bet now would be to actually put the shutter back on the camera, setting the focus, gluing the rings back on the focus scale ring, etc. can be done once it's all on the camera. In fact, it's easier to do it at that point. So I'll prepare for that. I really need the shutter release and things in the body when I do this for convenience. So I'll put the top cover back on. And so in order to do that, I need to put the shutter release and so forth back in here. So here's my shutter release shaft. I'm just going to put a little wipe of molybdenum paste on there and on the upper section where it passes through the body. I've got two springs here. One for the shutter release and the other one for the film release. They look much the same. One's possibly finer than the other. We'll call that one the film release. Let's try this on the shutter release. Certainly fits. I'll slide this into the body. Yep, it's nice and bouncy. That feels good. Put the shutter release button on the front there. That goes round that way. Shutter release button goes round that way. I'll put a touch of synthetic grease on the top of that drive dog arrangement there. And the film release button, of course, goes at the back here, and that's slightly cursed. It's always fun getting the top on over that. I'll get the top. Okay, let's see what we can get on here. If I hold that down, a pair of tweezers. Lift this into position. Yeah. Oh, look at that. My shutter button appears to be unusually stiff. What's gone wrong there? Is it not rotated correctly? Alright, let's put these screws in the top cover and check that the shutter release moves smoothly. Yeah, that feels good. single screw at this end, of course. Not seeing any action from my frame counter there. I can't have something sitting correctly. Oh, it moved. Right, I think I've had that positioned wrong when I put the top on the camera. Oh, let's go back. Certainly not moving with every stroke of the film advance. Can't be picking up correctly. No, something is certainly not right there. I have to compare this and see what I've done wrong. I know what it is. This should be at the front. Now we'll see how it goes. Right, frame counter that works. Just a minor hiccup there, and easily overcome. Right, so the shutter. I'm not sure if I've got this correctly positioned just at the moment. I'm talking about this D-shaped connection at the top here, so I'll just try the shutter without the flash connection. I want to see if it cocks and fires. It does. No problem there, so we're on the right track. I want to make my flash connection and get my paper and metal shims on the back here. So let's have a look at those shims first. Usually the easiest way to do this is to put the paper shims on first. Because there's a little alignment screw here that I have to be aware of, and I don't want to disturb this, otherwise it won't lock into position correctly. Okay, so they are positioned. My flash connection will go on here, and I've got to get that coupled up first. So take my flash wire. Should be able to slide that in at the back of that connection, right, just like that. Tighten that screw. Of course that doesn't want to turn. That's hardly anything new. That's good. Can I get my connections in? The cocking and the release. Let's try that. That looks okay. Now those shims, have the shims moved at all? I'm going to check that. No, they're not sitting correctly. I can tell because this is not sitting down correctly in the body. That shim has rotated. No, it's moved again. As you'd expect, no sooner did I turned off the video camera and gave that thing a wiggle, it dropped into place, and there is no problem. So I can put the retaining ring in place. And we'll just get this to start and tighten it up and we'll be in business. That's it, I think. So tightening it up. I had a tool that would do that job nicely, didn't I? And here it is. This part you can't see because I need more daylight than I can get when you're sitting down on the table. That's nice, that moves very nicely indeed. And on 1 second, runs smoothly. On 1 second with the self timer. Self timer's running down. And that runs down nicely too. Okay, that part's good. We're not finished with the camera by a long shot, but we're getting close. I need to get this piece on there first. That's the name ring. I think I need to put that on before I put this on. Yes, it'll be trapped underneath. I just want to put a spot of glue on this so it'll stay where it's put. Let me give a wipe to that surface. This had only had a little touch of lacquer on one spot before, so it certainly doesn't need much. I'll be using a bit of glue on that because that's what I've got in front of me. And I'm just going to put a single, a couple of spots will do, I think. Right, and this can go up any way at all. There you go, that's just to stop that thing falling off. Now, here's our focus scale ring, and of course we have a hard stop on this that needs to be adjusted for infinity. So I've got to adjust the focus to infinity. I've got my shutter set to B, have I? Aperture set to wide open, which is 3.5. I'll check the shutter. I'm going to use a ground glass screen at the focal plane, and I'll check that against an infinity target, get my focus correct. Basically I'll be adjusting the position of my front lens until my focus is correct at the infinity target. Then I'll place this ring on the top there and rotate that till it hits its stop without disturbing the lens. Tighten the 3 little grub screws. The lens will be correctly focused at that point. Our focus scale ring here, simply all I need to do at that stage is rotate this hard against the infinity stop, make sure that the infinity mark on the ring here lines up against my triangle at the top, glue it in place at that point, job done. Then I can open up the top of the camera and get my adjustment correct for this shutter release. Well, that's all back looking like a camera. Now I've just got to go in and adjust my shutter release so that the shutter fires and the film advance is released at the same point in the travel as the shutter release button. At the moment I can release the film advance. You'll hear a faint click. That one, I can move it again before I got to the point where the shutter released. That's that first click. If I press it a bit further, then the shutter fires. Means that that screw on the top of the release shaft, I've got to screw that in slightly so that the film releases later. So we'll just do that. This may require 1 or 2 attempts to get it quite correct. I'll move it a 1/4 of a turn, I think, would be a good place to start. We'll start right there. Now with a bit of luck, this is the last time in here, so I'm just making sure I've got no dust on the inside of my finder. And get this film release, which is a curse. There we go, that's in. I'm just checking this now. That was the film releasing it before I got to the shutter. And the shutter shortly afterwards. We'll try another quarter of a turn. A quarter of a turn is a considerable amount. It certainly should be enough. Let's try this top cover. I'm only getting one click there. The shutter is releasing the film, Advance is releasing it at the same point. That's perfect, that's exactly as it should be. I can put my screws into the top cover, and after that there's not much more needs to be done. Put the rewind knob back on it. Right, that's all good. The rewind, it's here. I've got its wavy washer. I'll put the screw on my special driver. Take the wavy washer, bit of synthetic grease, and that's just, the centre of this is just the film reminder dial. Of course that's dates back to the days when it was normal to have a Christmas at each end of a roll of film. So you'd often forgotten what you'd put in there if you didn't have a film reminder dial. So this one was labelled Kodachrome F, which would be for artificial light, I think. Kodachrome D for daylight, Plus X, Tri X, Pan X, Ektachrome F, Ektachrome D. So, 4 different slide films, 3 different monochrome, black and white films. No mention there of colour print films, you'll notice, because Kodachrome, the colour print films, were not really a very big thing in the early days of photography. You tended to use black and white film, or you tended to use slide film. Right, there we have it. This Retinette type 030/9. They were a special order made for the UK as far as I'm aware. There aren't an awful lot of them about. Basically, it's a Retina 1 type 030 with the top cover from a Retina type 022. And you might, that they were built to a price, I would imagine. I'm sure they didn't choose that top cover with the single viewfinder just out of because they wanted to cheat the customers out of the bright line finder. I'm sure they did it to keep the cost just that little bit lower, so that it came under some threshold or other for the tax. Anyway, thanks for watching.